Welcome to another episode of So What Wednesday. I'm your host, Benny Dillon. For those of you joining us for the first time, our goal is to help break down trends and new technology in either GovCon or technology topics that are trending. The ultimate goal is to answer that so what question. Easy question, sometimes a hard answer, hard to get there. Every week, I'm lucky enough to be joined by someone a lot smarter than me. This week, it's Mr. Chris Novello. So, Chris, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Do you want to do a quick background on yourself, quick introductions, and then we'll get kicked off?
Absolutely. Thank you, Benny. I appreciate it. Like your previous guests, I don't know about smarter than for sure, but hopefully able to contribute with some content that's helpful.
Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Novello, and I'm with GitLab. I am the public sector channel area sales manager, and I've been with GitLab now for over 2 years, turning the corner towards three. And very excited to be here, very excited to be talking to Benny and helping out in any way you possibly can.
No, it's these video podcasts are always beneficial when we have folks like yourself on, right? It's the goal is to take those topics that are hard, take those trends that are hard to explain, and get you guys who are the experts to help us walk through it. So I'll jump into the questions if you don't mind.
Sure.
Last week we started kind of our DevOps series with Jason Ader. Jason's an analyst, and he broke down the different categories of DevOps and where things fit, where things lie. And there's 9 categories overall. But then there's this reoccurring theme of this idea of GitOps. So I was going to drill down into that with you today, but also I wanted you to take a minute, if you don't mind. What is GitLab? Kind of how did you guys get here? How's the company? What's kind of the formation of the company? And then we'll kick off the rest of the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So GitLab really started in 2011, where they were looking for a way to be able to collaborate. And Git, relatively new around that time frame, was the best up and coming way in order to be able to do it, a decentralized way in which people can contribute code or contribute into a repository where it doesn't overstep the other folks' work. And in 2011, that's how they started. By 2012, the CEO, Sid Sijbrandij, and he's still our CEO today, and co-owner as well, co-founder. Thought it would be natural to like create a collaboration tool for programmers in an open source, so you can continue to contribute to it. And he was a Ruby programmer from the start,
Wow.
so he checked out the source code, and he was impressed with the code quality that GitLab did just within 1 year. And he actually put it out to Hacker News as a way of being able to store their own, and they had 300 contributors within the first year. And so they were all interested in GitLab.com. And so hundreds of people signed up for it for the beta. And that's the origination of how GitLab started in the early infancy of the years. You fast forward, and we are still a private company. So there's things I have to be able to be sensitive to. But I can talk about the progression of the company as a whole. As you had mentioned, that gentleman said that there was 9 stages. We recognize 10, and around manage, plan, create, verify, package, secure, release, configure, monitor, and protect. This is the strategy of where GitLab went towards. There are some other Git type of technologies, such as GitHub, where they solely live in the repository. They solely live in the source code management, and they want to be where all the crown jewels are, if you will, from a code standpoint. Hence why Microsoft bought them. Great strategic move. But as we all know, or if not, you'll come to find out probably within this discussion, is there is a lot of point products out there that hit into these 10 stages of the software development lifecycle. And there isn't one, if you will, Swiss Army knife that can do all things. There might be some through mergers and acquisitions that do a good portion of them or a decent size of it, but none of them organically built from the ground up do all 10 stages. And that's GitLab. We may not be the 800-pound gorilla in every single one of these stages, but for the most part, we are catching up rapidly based on our methodology. It is an open source technology with contributions that are coming in from our community, or basically, I think it's 2,600 contributions, maybe 3,000.
Wow.
Total from around the world. And they push that up in which we assess, we look at, and we go, absolutely, this is what's needed within the strengthening of the application. It's not a platform, right? A platform is, segments of many different things that are cobbled together. This is one single application that is being written to continuously. And within that proof point, as the example, in 2017, we really weren't even in the CI/CD category.
Yeah.
Fast forward within a year, based on all these contributions and the focus, we're the leader, according to Forrester. And that is the essence of GitLab, right? Open, transparent. If you look at our values online, which a lot of people gravitate towards, spells credit, and it's an acronym. You can look it up. We live by that every single day, and everyone contributes from that standpoint, and which I'm very proud of what it is that GitLab has become within that time frame to today.
Growing up in software, one of the phrases you heard, depending on if you were East Coast software or West Coast software, East Coast software would say, eat your own dog food. West Coast software says, drink your own wine, right? So what's interesting is the way what you just described to me in a nutshell is the kind of the essence of DevOps, which is being able to collaborate and build with this idea that people can contribute. People can say, hey, we're trying to do this, and everybody works together to kind of get to that step and that goal. And you're able to keep that consistency and that speed of contribution. So you guys are drinking your own wine or eating your own dog food, right? You're kind of DevOpsing yourself, if you will. So pretty interesting in how you guys are going to market.
Yeah, great point. In fact, that is mentioned in our handbook. If you look at GitLab and in everything about us, and you go to aboutgitlab.com, there's over 7,000 pages in a handbook, right? There's no way you'll be able to go through all those things, but everyone is contributing to it. Everyone is, like you said, dog fooding, and that is the term that's used. So to that point, I guess we chose dog fooding. The the essence of where I was going to go with that is in that handbook, you could see that we're constantly innovating, we're constantly updating it. We were the first, back in 2019, before COVID hit and the pandemic and so forth, we were already 100% virtual. This was something that wasn't, widely, I guess, adopted across all industries, but then we ended up getting forced to do so. Yep. We were already there. We don't own a single building. Our address is at our CEO's address. And we already were in full function and full adoption of working remotely through collaborative tools, collaborative applications. And quite frankly, it's been amazing to see just the springboard of continued growth within the company based on being prepared at the right place at the right time, having a leader with innovation in order to be able to prepare us for this without really knowing that this was going to happen, and how much of an impact we've actually been able to contribute back to others. In our handbook, we have best practices on,
interesting,
and it's continuing to iterate on these best practices because we're human, right? Nothing is perfect, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah,
the whole process of being remote. But I think this kind of leads into the next set of questions. So when you have an audience, both an audience that you speak to and then that you are speaking kind of from both sides, you have to be able to have this, again, collaboration. People are everywhere. They're working on different things. No different than a business operation, right? You have the business side, you have the developers, you have operations. Everybody's trying to push forward towards something. But then you realize you need this application. You need a way to bring all this chaos together, right? And I think that's where it leads to this idea of GitOps, right? As far as those 10 in your application or in the GitLab world, those 10 things that you need to be able to do, and not just live in one of those silos, because you have to have a way of planning all this, being able to provide a baseline, be able to provide metrics across the board, right? Hey, are we releasing at the right velocity? Are we having too many bugs when we release? Like, all this needs an application. All this needs I won't use the word platform, I promise. It needs a way to be communicated and to kind of bring that chaos together. So it's interesting that you guys don't just talk about the product that way, don't just build a product that way, but actually live kind of a day-to-day company lifestyle that way. So that speaks volumes in terms of how you guys go to market.
I'll take it one step further to your point. We all do collaborate in GitLab. We built GitLab on GitLab. And so, as you had mentioned, you're right. We are a global company. I believe we're in the neighborhood of around 2,000 employees.
Wow.
And it's all around the world, and you'll wake up and you'll see the issues, and that's the naming convention in regards to the area in which people are working on. And in those issues, you'll see where you get tagged on things and what is he working. And, we start off all the way on the left side in regards to managing and planning and having our issue boards with milestones and, burn down rates for projects and things like that, and work our way all the way through in whatever it is that those initiatives are. So it's becoming more than just a software development lifecycle tool, a code tool. It's now also becoming a business unit tool. And we have use cases within the government, specifically in very, very high scenarios where it is that, they have folks that are unclassified and so forth, but they need to have stuff that can be contributed. So we have ways of being able to, show that visibility from what they're working on. It's a lot of fun. To your point. Sorry, I'm going into
No, all good. Let's. I'll jump into some of the questions so we can. We'll keep going. So if we talk about kind of the idea of GitOps and these 10 different phases or 10 different areas, how does this fit, in your opinion, into the new cloud or the cloudy world, right? How does GitOps fit into that model? How does it fit into this new world that we all live in now?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And to your point, and this is what's been exciting for me, and I think that's how you open this this discussion, being able to kind of give some context and understanding. When I started at GitLab over 2 years ago, and I've been in the public sector for quite some time, as you know. Everywhere I went, trade shows, so forth and so on. Are you GitHub? Are you just where are you? And being able to explain to them at that time, based on code development, no, we're GitLab, and the main difference is the 10 stages and how we can do all that. That story, still maintaining that within 2 years forward, still very, very important. Breaking down silos, a lot of things are happening, especially within this executive order, in order to be able to, hey, I need that Swiss Army knife. I need it for many, many reasons. But not only do I need it for that code portion of what everyone's aware of from application development and so forth, I need it for all these other areas of what then is affected based on the application. So GitOps, right, is again the bringing of two words together, as you mentioned in your previous session, right? Git, right, your repository,
Yep.
and then operations, right? So the operation side of production, and within that, for GitOps, what is operationally broken potentially when things happen? And so the operational framework that takes DevOps best practice used for application development, such as version control, collaboration, compliance, continuous integration, continuous development, and applies them into infrastructure, right? So the code is stored in the Git repository. The change is interacted via a merge request. The code is then scanned for security and vulnerabilities and best practices, and then infrastructure updates are automated based on the way in which the framework works within the application for GitLab.
So you're trying to take all the human error out of it, the portions of pushing that into the infrastructure, especially the code side of it.
Yes.
So kind of
Yes.
this leads into the next question. A lot of the customers or folks that we talked to, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, we did a whole automation meetup down in Tampa. How, in your opinion, does having this application or this idea of GitOps fit in or help as people are trying to scale up with automation, right? Does one benefit the other? And how, again, in your opinion, how does that benefit the automation side?
I love having these kind of conversations in regards to like looking at history, and I'm very much like that kind of thinker, right? And if you look at back in the day, right, I used to work at Oracle, and I remember being on the Cortex side, and then middleware, and then you had applications, right? So you always had these stacks of things in order to be able to create what the end result was supposed to be. And then out of nowhere, you started seeing where they would cobble together, and then it would be one thing, and then, oh, how do I make things talk? Service-oriented architecture, so forth. So those all progress to become automated, right? Making things easier, making things more collaborative. That's the same thing here, right? In which you're staying away from not too long ago where developers had to write code, write notes, and then notify the team through whatever communication way, and like, oh, now it's your turn to go in.
Yep.
I mean, the cost of just developing code, right, through the roof, through automation and through the ability in order to automate these checks and balances and so forth, right? Your total cost of ownership, right, going down, right? The return on investment in regards to what it is that you're working on, so much higher. And automation makes it possible for engineers and talent to use the skills on projects that add like the real business value to contribute for long-term growth around quality assurance, test automation, the overall strategy of what the user experience looks like. Like you said, IT automation makes it possible to deploy applications faster, increase developer productivity without like the DevOps lifecycle being torn apart. And without the right IT automation, growth will basically, undoubtedly suffer as teams need more and more staff to keep up with demand. Automation and collaboration are an essential part of operational efficiency, accelerating delivery and innovating products. And CI/CD is the link for that. So if there's anything that comes away out of this, it would be this for me. The CI/CD component of it is the bridge that connects everything together. And that bridge is only as strong as the rules and the infrastructure that you put in place. And the more automated you make it, the easier it is in order to be able to cross it. So that's what's happening here, where if you can put as many things as possible of how does it affect your environment within that CI/CD without it breaking, you're golden. And in regards to the automation efficiencies that help progress mission work. I'm thinking from a government standpoint, mission work.
So it's like, you really don't do one without the other. You kind of have to build this idea of GitOps and enable your team to collaborate together. And when
Absolutely.
they start doing that exact kind of collaboration is when you start finding more efficiencies in automation, because what you're essentially are doing is you're building, if you will, and I know analogies sometimes can go the wrong way. This is almost like an ERP for software and how software is built inside of an organization, right? From planning it through executing on it, through deploying it. So automation is a part of that journey. It's not the end, it's not the beginning, it's layered throughout. And it kind of helps feed that automation journey so you can get faster, you can get better, you can have more inputs coming in, more requests coming in from the business as an example, or the mission, versus just hiring more people, right? Right now, if you have to scale with people, you eat into your bottom line, you eat into your budget, right? You just can't scale with people today. So what I hear from you is that idea of GitOps is that foundation for helping scale, not just automation, but really anything that you're trying to get out and increase the velocity, consistency, repeatability on inside the organization, code, CI/CD, any of those things. So this becomes foundational to more than just automation. Is that fair?
That is a very fair statement and very well summed up. Yes.
So again, not to repeat history too much, but you can't help not turn on the news and hear about everything security related, whether it's the meat processors or the pipeline or something got hacked. Security is always top of mind, especially when you're building something, especially when you're designing something from the ground up or building from the ground up. How does what you guys put down as a foundation help with the security side of things?
Yeah, and it is timely to bring this up, and I'm very appreciative that you decided to ask that question, especially at the end of May, the executive order for cybersecurity, which was released, and a lot of the sections that are in there, quite frankly, speak to a lot of the value prop in which GitLab has already built in preparation of just in case a situation like this does occur. And we feel really blessed to be a part of it, to be honest with you, because we already have proof points. We already have customers that are adopting methodologies, leveraging GitLab as the cornerstone, specifically around the secure code for the supply chain portion of it within there. So I'll speak to it kind of in those terms because I know it's top of mind. Does it make a difference for GitOps and from a security standpoint? Absolutely. The more that you're able to shift it left into the development of the code, the better you are in multiple reasons, right? From an efficiency standpoint, instead of having to wait until the end of what it is that you're releasing and what you've been developing for, the security, the SOC in order to be able to review it, or the within the CISO's policies, and then what if it fails, having to send it back, your developers are already working on something else. What if it doesn't pass, like you said, the operational framework, because it wasn't built into the quality assurance processes right off the bat? Now you've got to go back. There's just so many areas of how it is that there is failure. We know it. We've seen it when it is at the end, when it's towards the right, when you're shifting it left into the CI/CD build, and you're able to do static application security testing, dynamic application security testing, container scanning, license management, secret detection, dependency scanning on the overall container scanning. You're able to then check off so much more in the quality of that code and allow for approvals to go through, knowing that it meets your policies, it meets the standards that you have for your agency. And we are seeing this more and more, especially now within the executive order that came out of this. Please show us more about this, GitLab. Like, please explain a little bit more of how it is that this works. Like, how do we get involved in it? And I'll give you a proof point on something that we were working on before the executive order came out. We are aware, because we definitely support the high side. Within the high side, we know that there are challenges from a bottleneck standpoint in regards to security approvals based on releases. And we worked out an ability to show within our YAML file of where the code stands, leveraging secret detection for NIST policies, to check those boxes off as the code goes through in the build. And then through doing that, knowing that it passed, sending it off for approval. And within that approval, CISO could see it and they go, yep, we're good to go. No problem. That process alone, because it was manually, took weeks and sometimes months for one team to be able to get to that checkbox off. So to your point, it's instrumental to bring security as close as possible to where it is that the code is being developed, and done in a automated fashion through the scans that can occur as you're developing the merge request, in order to be able to go, yep, we're good to go. Let's release it. It's been very eye-opening, and I'm very appreciative to be a part of a lot of those conversations that I've seen.
Yeah, it seems like more and more everybody's pushing, and what you guys are prescribing and actually delivering is make security systemic, right? Make it a part of the process all the way through, beginning to end, not an add-on or after the fact. Or, back in the day, we used to look at the IA and security people were like, it's them again. Like, crap, we forgot about them. Like, we should have called you sooner. Sorry. But, oh, by the way, we have to launch this tomorrow. So hurry up and do your stuff, right? I think this prevents a lot of that, to your point of shifting it left, right? Now I fully understand the concept of that, but also it makes it systemic. It's part of the foundation of how things are done. Every single process follows it. Every code build follows it. Every piece of code that goes out of the shop follows that systemic process. So it's no longer an afterthought. It's part of how you do business, right? On a day-to-day basis. It's your operation. So very interesting. I think if of all the different things that are top of mind for people, obviously things like DevOps is definitely top of mind, but improving the security posture, I think is not a one-time, flag in the ground event, right? It's an ongoing effort, and being able to make it that repeatable is, in my opinion, the key to making it really work. Bottom line, right? If you can't make it consistent, you can't make it repeatable, you won't be able to secure it. So I think that's one topic. If we do another one of these, I think we should dig down on, because I think that's what a lot of folks are interested in right now, specifically on the security side. So, two more questions for you, and then we'll open it up for other things. But one of the things we consistently hear, especially in the government space, right? We've talked a lot about where the 10 different areas are and where they fit and how they fit. A lot of it revolves around development and developers. And one thing in DoD specifically, one of the things they hear is, hey, my guys aren't developers. Why should they learn or get into GitOps? I have my contractors that I have over here that are doing the development, or I've contracted this application development out to, give an SI. My guys aren't developers. What's the benefit to them? Why should they leverage GitOps?
So, and can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on their personas? Like, what is it that they are responsible for?
They're operations people, they're sysadmins, they might be security or IA people like we talked about, project managers, program managers, kind of people to the right of that traditional build the code, build the actual software.
Sure. Yeah, so it's about transparency overall, Benny. The ability for those folks and those personas in order to be able to see the dependencies of the result of what it is that's being developed for them. So, project managers, as an example, more than likely they need to approve these things. So, having a single application where multiple folks can all have visibility into it or collaborate as they need to in order to, provide their own input as these things are being developed, they need to see that. From a project management standpoint, that it brings up the point even more on the need for a single application that could do all 10 stages so that you're not siloed in your one GUI interface on what it is that totally aligns with what your persona is. So if you are a project manager and you're looking for your Kanban board, right, or issue board in our case, within the issue boards, how are things tracking to meet my SLAs? How are we looking towards the burn down rate of everyone's efforts working within that? So I think it's a matter of, Benny, to your point of what impact within the development of the code does this mean for that individual, and then again, transparency, being able to have the visibility into it. From a licensing model standpoint, if you're not doing code, if you're not adding to it, we don't charge you,
Got
right?
it.
So you could just have visibility into it. Let me see it. You're gonna contribute to it. And yeah, there's a license cost, right? But no, just visibility. Need to be able to see it, recognize how and when it's going to be coming out, where then it affects my responsibility. You need that transparency. You need that visibility.
Yeah,
So I
so
would say that that's the benefit to them.
it's that we Jason last week said, it's almost like the idea of a digital supply chain, right? DevOps is if you really look at that supply chain and how things happen. And I looked at that as, and another analogy for me is like a factory. And in factories, you have this idea of ERP and enterprise resource planning. You may not be the person putting the thing together on the factory floor, but you definitely have to be involved wherever you live in that process, right? You have to know, hey, how many more of these things do I need? Or is this thing back ordered? Do I need more parts? Or why did this slip? So that single application, that single view is important, whether you're a developer or not. So this idea of GitOps is bigger than the development or just the developers, if you will.
That's a great way. And I don't know if you're familiar with the book. I think you are. The Phoenix Project. It always comes to mind
Yep.
whenever you say that.
Yep.
Needing to go and see, the valley. Yeah. Yep.
You got to be down there,
Fantastic.
right? So
Yep.
now my favorite question, and the reason this why we do this. So what? Like, I used to be able to do this the other way, the old way. What's the bottom
Sure.
line? What's the so what on GitOps, GitLab, and why should we even consider it or think about it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a fair question, and the reason why I think it's fair is because we're all human. The life that you put behind and the skill set that you have builds who you are and the value that you provide to the organization that you support. And change isn't easy, and I think that's always been the challenge in general when it comes to the advancement of technology. It could be threatening to the point of where it is that your value is and what it is that you've learned and what it is that you're supporting. And as a whole, we all know that one thing that's constant in this world is change. And, we're all progressing to become more efficient, from technological advances across the board as a whole. And why I think that GitLab is a great tool to look at as that cornerstone in regards to embracing the change on all of the things that we're seeing within the landscape is because of the nature of the company as a whole. The values of credit and how it is that we go to work every single day. We're looking to hear the feedback of what everyone needs to leverage GitLab for their own success. everyone has a voice. What I love is seeing where, hey, we need CAC authentication and we need it now. And that's what is needed in order to be able to support the initiative here. And based on our values and the release time that happens every single month, it was done within 6 months.
Wow.
It was done. And actually, to be perfectly honest with you, that person that recommended it, he was never in sales before. He is now a sales rep for us.
Wow.
He loved the company and loved the technology that much. And so what I would say to that person is so what is, if you're looking for a great company that embodies the values of what we all strive for as humans and being able to advance and move the mission forward and protect our country and keep our country amazing. I feel that this company does that. I feel that GitLab, the application itself, does that. And that's what we're all passionate about every single day in helping speed time to mission and all of the things that we know that the country is trying to accomplish on a daily basis. And I would say, as much as things might be challenging from an innovation standpoint and all these other things, GitLab is a very, very awesome company.
Well, it sounds like it's bigger than just that. It sounds like it's a way of life almost, right? It's a culture. You guys buy into the idea of credit, right? And kind of walking through transparency, collaboration, work together, and then keep moving, right? And build that application so people have visibility into every step. Again, back to transparency. So what for me that I got out of this was it's truly kind of getting back that ERP look, if you will, of building whatever it is that you're trying to build, and give you a single application to be able to do that in, right? And look at every stage of that and be able to predict and look at, say, hey, this is what we plan to, this is what we manage to, this is where the risks are, this is when it's going to happen. So everybody's on one page, because that's the hardest thing. When you have if you have 5 people, I don't care if you have 5 people or 5,000 people, getting everybody on one page, working towards the same goal is extremely hard. And it sounds like you guys provide that application, not just for the development side or the development community, but really bridge the gap between those folks, the operations folks, the analysts, the requirements people, QA, security, everybody, to be able to get on the same page. Is that a fair so what?
That is very fair and very well summed up. Not to mention cloud ready. We're agnostic for any cloud, Kubernetes based. So the need to refactor applications, we're a fantastic tool for that as well, which I know is a huge initiative for the government.
Everybody's talking about it now. So quick wrap up for everybody. What really helps us and helps the conversation with folks like Chris is any feedback that you have, good, bad, you hated it, you loved it. And also what other stuff you want to hear about, and what else you want to dig into. So I'd love some feedback on the conversation with Chris. I know security is one of the things everybody hits us up on. So Chris, we'll probably have you back on for another deep dive on security, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all. That'd be great.
Cool. Thank you all. Appreciate it. See you in the next one.